My neighbor once told me I should aim lower because people from our street don't usually end up owning businesses. He said it casually while watering his plants, like he was offering friendly advice. I thanked him, went inside, and wrote his sentence on a sticky note above my desk. Not out of anger, out of clarity. My name is Owen Parker. I'm 29, and for most of my life I lived in places where ambition sounded unrealistic if you said it out loud. I grew up in a small apartment above a repair shop where the walls vibrated every time a truck engine started. Success stories on television felt like documentaries about another planet. People around me were hardworking, practical, and cautious. Dreams were fine as long as they stayed hobbies. The moment you treated them like plans, conversations changed tone. After college, I didn't have a clear roadmap, just a laptop, and an interest in product design. I took freelance gigs that paid enough to survive, but not enough to impress anyone. Friends posted office selfies with badges and glass buildings behind them. I posted nothing because progress looked like unfinished sketches and late-night revisions. At family gatherings, the same question appeared like clockwork. So, what company are you with now? When I said I worked independently, the smiles became polite instead of curious. Nobody meant harm. They just trusted visible structures more than invisible momentum. The neighbor's comment landed on a Tuesday afternoon. He wasn't rude, just confident in his observation. That confidence bothered me more than criticism would have. It sounded permanent, like he'd already watched the movie of my life and spoiled the ending. That night, I didn't argue with him in my head. I opened my notebook and mapped out what owning a business actually meant. Skills, costs, timelines, risks. When you break a mountain into measurements, it stops looking mythical and starts looking technical. I began treating learning like construction work. Every evening after dinner, I studied branding, pricing strategy, and user research. Weekends became testing days where I built small digital products and released them quietly to see what worked. Most failed, a few didn't. Failure without witnesses is surprisingly efficient because it teaches without embarrassing you. Within 2 years, one of my small tools, a simple scheduling plugin, gained steady traction. It wasn't explosive growth, just consistent adoption. I improved it monthly, listened to feedback, and built a support system that made customers stay. Revenue climbed slowly, then reliably. I registered a company name that fit on a single line and printed business cards I rarely handed out. Legitimacy felt less like a ceremony and more like a series of tiny confirmations. The real shift happened the day a larger platform offered to integrate my tool officially. The contract wasn't life-changing money, but it was undeniable validation. Systems I built in a small apartment were now running inside companies I used to admire from a distance. Around the same time, the repair shop downstairs closed, and the building owner decided to sell. I wasn't ready to buy the entire place, but I was ready to move. I rented a modest office nearby with clean walls and quiet hallways. No grand opening, no ribbon cutting, just a new key and a better desk. A week later, I ran into my neighbor again. He asked where I'd been lately. I told him I'd moved my workspace and launched a company. He looked surprised, then pleased, like he'd just discovered a plot twist he didn't expect. There was no apology needed. He'd given me something more useful than encouragement. He'd given me a sentence I could measure myself against. That experience taught me that doubt from others isn't always a barrier. Sometimes it's a benchmark. You don't have to argue with predictions about your limits. You just have to build outcomes that make those predictions outdated. I still keep that sticky note in a drawer. Not as motivation, but as evidence of distance traveled. The street I grew up on didn't change. The people didn't change. What changed was my relationship with possibility. Ambition stopped sounding unrealistic once I translated it into daily actions instead of dramatic announcements. These days, when someone suggests I aim lower, I don't feel offended. I feel organized. Because aiming higher isn't about shouting bigger goals. It's about quietly expanding your capabilities until higher becomes normal, and normal becomes sustainable. And the life you once explained starts introducing itself without your help.